The spaceship arrived silently in the purple sky above the alien palace. It was not large, but its metal shone under the gas giant's glow. Inside, a young human boy named Liam tightened his grip on the small bag he carried. His heart beat fast. He had traveled far from Earth, to a world full of strange creatures, bright lights, and rules he did not understand. Yet, curiosity and courage had brought him here, to the palace of the feared alien queen. Liam stepped down onto the smooth silver floor. The palace was enormous, taller than any building on Earth, and filled with glowing pillars that pulsed softly like they were alive. Strange symbols floated in the air, changing colors as he walked. He could hear whispers behind him, the quiet voices of palace aides observing every step. Every movement, every sound he made was noticed. Liam swallowed nervously but kept walking. At the end of the long hall, a massive door opened. A soft golden light spilled out, illuminating the boy's small frame. Inside, the throne room stretched farther than he could see. Crystal walls reflected 1,000 colors. In the center, on a raised platform, sat the alien queen. Her skin shimmered silver under the light, and her eyes were large and glowing with a strange, sharp intelligence. She watched Liam silently, her expression unreadable. "You may step forward," she said in a voice that vibrated in the air. It was calm but powerful, a sound that could command armies. Liam nodded and walked closer. He had seen pictures of the queen in reports, but pictures could not show how tall and majestic she was. Her presence made him feel small, but he did not back away. He wanted to do something important here. A small figure rolled forward beside the queen. Princess Alara, the queen's daughter, hovered on a levitating chair. Her eyes were gentle but sad. Liam noticed that she did not move much, and her hands trembled slightly. The aides had told him she was disabled and rarely laughed. She had not smiled in months. Liam's chest tightened. He had not come here to fail. The queen studied him closely. "You are a human," she said. "We have watched your kind for a long time. Tell me, why should my daughter care about you?" Liam swallowed. His mind raced. He had not expected this question. But he took a deep breath. I just want to make her happy," he said simply. "I have traveled a long way. I do not understand your rules or your language fully. But I can try." The queen's gaze did not soften. She leaned slightly forward, her eyes glowing brighter. "Many have tried. All have failed. Why should you succeed where others could not?" Liam's hands shook, but he straightened. "Because I will not give up. I do not know your daughter yet, but I want to. And I think she might like humans if she gives me a chance." The queen's lips curved in the smallest hint of a smile, almost unnoticeable. She turned her eyes to Alara. The princess blinked slowly, her gaze curious. She had never seen a human up close. She had heard of them, but humans were strangers in every way. Yet something about this small boy seemed different. He did not bow, did not fear her like others. He spoke honestly. "Very well," the queen said after a long pause. "You will remain in this palace for a time. You will see my daughter every day. If she smiles even once, it will be considered progress." Liam's heart leaped. "Thank you, Your Majesty," he said eagerly. He had expected fear and suspicion, but not hope. This was his chance. As he followed a servant to the room where Princess Alara stayed, he looked back at the throne. The queen watched him carefully, as if trying to see what kind of human he truly was. Liam knew this would not be easy. He was not a prince, not a soldier, not a diplomat. He was only a boy with stories, games, and a wish to make someone laugh. But sometimes, the smallest things could change everything. The palace corridors were vast and echoing. Liam saw portraits of alien ancestors, grand celebrations, and weapons that seemed more like sculptures than tools of war. He noticed how carefully the aides moved around the princess, how gentle they were, almost afraid to let her touch anything. Liam understood then that this was not just a palace. It was a place of rules, traditions, and caution. Finally, he arrived at the princess's room. It was filled with floating toys and holographic images of planets and stars. Princess Alara looked at him silently, her large eyes curious but unsure. Liam knelt slightly, holding out a small mechanical toy from his bag. "Hello," he said softly. "I brought this for you. I thought you might like it." Alara tilted her head. The toy made soft buzzing sounds and hovered in the air, spinning slowly. Her lips twitched. A tiny spark of interest appeared in her eyes. Liam's heart raced. He had taken the first step. He did not know if this would be enough to make her laugh, but he had learned something important already. Sometimes just showing care could open a door that no one else could. Outside, the queen observed silently, her expression unreadable. Deep down she felt a stir of hope, and perhaps a warning that this human boy might change things more than anyone imagined. Liam spent the first morning watching Princess Elara quietly. She did not speak much, only moving her fingers slightly over the controls of her floating chair. The holographic planets and creatures around her glowed softly, but she seemed lost in her own thoughts. Liam wondered how he could reach her, how he could make her laugh when no one else had. He tried again with the toy he had brought. He pressed a small button, and it buzzed and spun through the air, making a soft humming sound. Elara's eyes followed it, but she did not smile. Liam sighed quietly. "Okay," he said to himself, "you need something different." He walked around the room slowly, looking at everything. There were alien books with moving pictures, floating balls that changed colors, and small plants that glowed faintly. Liam picked up a ball and tossed it lightly in the air. It hovered, then spun toward Elara. She watched it curiously but said nothing. "Maybe stories?" Liam whispered. He knelt closer to her and began speaking in simple words, telling tales of Earth, of forests, rivers, and playful animals. He described humans dancing in festivals, children laughing in rain, and pets doing funny tricks. His voice was soft and warm, like a gentle song. Elara blinked slowly, her eyes wide, but her face stayed calm. Liam felt a small pinch of worry. He had hoped for at least a little smile. "I will try something else," he said, standing and pacing the room. "Maybe she likes games?" He started moving in silly ways, hopping, spinning, and making funny noises. He mimicked an alien creature he had seen in a hologram, making his arms flap and his head tilt in strange angles. Elara's eyes followed him, and for a moment, a tiny twitch appeared at the corner of her lips. Liam froze. Had she smiled? No, maybe it was just a trick of the light. He decided not to give up. He picked up another toy, a small robot that could walk and wave. He made it dance and jump in front of her. He even whispered jokes, simple ones about Earth animals doing silly things. Elara's eyes followed every movement, her breathing quiet but steady. Liam felt hope bloom in his chest. Hours passed. The palace was quiet except for the soft hum of machinery and the occasional whisper of the servants outside. Liam kept talking, showing toys and making gestures. Sometimes Elara's eyes sparkled when a light caught her attention. Sometimes she tilted her head as if trying to understand him. And sometimes, just for a second, Liam thought he saw the corners of her lips lift ever so slightly. "Patience," he whispered to himself. "One laugh is all I need." In the evening, Liam tried something new. He had noticed Elara liked the holographic butterflies floating around the room. He picked up a small device and released dozens of tiny glowing butterflies into the air. They fluttered around, creating trails of light. Liam twirled among them, spinning and pretending to chase them. Elara's eyes widened, her head turning from butterfly to butterfly. The glow reflected in her eyes, and Liam could see a tiny smile forming. He held his breath. Then, softly at first, a quiet giggle escaped her lips. Liam froze, hardly believing it. The giggle grew a little louder, turning into a short laugh. The queen, who had been observing from a distance through a crystal window, felt her heart skip a beat. No human, or any outsider, had ever made her daughter laugh. And yet, here it was, a small sound that seemed to fill the entire palace with warmth. Elara's laughter continued, soft and bright. Liam knelt beside her, smiling widely. "See," he whispered. "You can laugh. You just needed a friend." The princess leaned closer to him, her eyes sparkling with a joy she had not felt in months. She reached out, touching the toy robot and making it dance again. Liam laughed too, happy that he had found a way to connect with her. Outside, the queen's advisors whispered among themselves, shocked and uneasy. This human boy had broken rules that had lasted for generations. He had entered the palace as a stranger, yet he had reached the one person no one could reach. Some worried it was dangerous. Some admired his courage. The queen herself did not speak immediately. She simply watched, her expression unreadable. Deep down she felt something she had not expected: hope. Perhaps humans could bring a new kind of warmth to her cold, structured world. Perhaps they could teach her daughter to live beyond her limitations. Liam spent the rest of the evening showing Elara small toys, telling stories and laughing with her. Each time she laughed, the glow in her eyes grew brighter. The palace felt different now, less strict, more alive. Even the floating plants seemed to shimmer with new energy. By the time night fell, Liam knew that the hardest step had been taken. He had reached her heart. He did not know what the queen would decide next, but he had planted a seed of joy where there had been only silence. And sometimes, Liam thought that was the most important victory of all. The queen remained in her throne room, her eyes fixed on her daughter and the boy. A decision had begun to form in her mind, a choice that could change everything in her palace, and perhaps in the galaxy. The next morning, Liam woke early, his excitement almost too big to contain. He had seen the first flicker of laughter in Princess Elara yesterday, and he could not wait to try again. He knew it would not be easy. One small laugh was not enough to break the walls around her entirely, but he was determined. Elara was already awake when he entered the room. Her eyes followed him quietly, curious but cautious. The holographic butterflies floated gently in the air, and the soft hum of the palace made the room feel calm. Liam smiled and knelt before her. "Good morning, Elara. Ready to play?" he asked softly. Elara did not answer. She only tilted her head slightly, her eyes curious. Liam nodded. He understood. She was learning to trust him step by step. He reached into his bag and pulled out a small glowing ball. It rolled in his hands and hovered, spinning slowly. "Do you want to see a trick?" he asked. The princess's eyes widened slightly. Liam tossed the ball gently into the air. It spun and twisted, changing colors from blue to green to gold. Elara's lips twitched. Liam's heart leapt. "Not bad, right?" he said with a grin, making the ball spin faster. Elara's fingers twitched and a small giggle escaped her lips. Liam froze. He could hardly believe it. He had waited for this moment and it was here again, soft, fragile but real. He knelt closer, keeping his voice calm and gentle. "See? You can laugh. You just have to let yourself." The princess's eyes sparkled and her laughter grew a little louder. Liam reached for another toy, a small robot shaped like a tiny animal, and made it dance across the room. Elara laughed again, louder this time, clapping her hands in delight. Her chair floated slightly higher as she leaned forward, completely absorbed. The queen, watching from her crystal balcony above, felt her chest tighten. She had never heard her daughter laugh like this. In all the years of strict lessons, controlled visits and careful attention, no one, not a tutor, not a noble, not a distant relative, had ever reached her in this way. And now, a human boy, small and untrained, had done what centuries of alien tradition could not. Liam did not notice the queen at first. He was focused entirely on Elara, making toys spin, telling silly stories, and moving in ways that made her laugh even more. He had learned quickly what she liked: the soft glow of the holograms, the gentle movements, the strange sounds that humans called funny. He tried different voices, different gestures, and every time she laughed he felt a little braver. Elara's laughter echoed through the palace hall, soft at first, then stronger. The aides and servants peeked in, shocked to see her so happy. They whispered quietly, worried that the queen might be angry. But the queen said nothing. She simply watched, her glowing eyes focused, thinking deeply. Liam noticed the change in Elara. She was no longer shy or withdrawn. Her movements became freer, her eyes brighter. She reached for his hand to guide the floating robot, laughing and pointing at its tiny dancing legs. Liam laughed with her, feeling warmth spread through him. He had not expected to feel such connection, but the bond was real and it filled the room with joy. Suddenly, Elara pointed toward the ceiling and squealed. Liam looked up and saw a cluster of glowing holographic stars spinning above her head. She tried to reach them, laughing as they twirled out of reach. Liam spun a small toy in the air, letting it bounce off the holograms, and the princess laughed harder, holding her sides. The queen felt a strange sensation in her chest. Pride? Relief? Something more? She had never felt hope like this before. Her daughter, confined by rules and illness, had finally discovered joy. And it was because of this human boy. Hours passed. Liam continued to play, tell stories, and make Elara laugh. The palace, usually quiet and controlled, felt alive. Even the floating plants and soft lights seemed to shimmer more brightly, as if they were responding to her happiness. Finally, Liam sat down on the floor, exhausted but smiling. Elara floated closer to him, her face glowing with joy. "Thank you," she said softly. It was her first words to him and it made his heart swell. Liam shook his head with a grin. "No, thank you, Elara. You taught me more than I taught you. You showed me that even a small laugh can be stronger than any rule or tradition." The queen stepped forward, her expression still controlled, but her eyes soft. She looked at Liam and then at her daughter. No one had ever dared to do this, to break the palace walls with laughter. And now it had happened. "Perhaps," she said quietly, "there is more to your kind than I thought." The words were soft, almost a whisper, but in the palace they carried weight. A human had brought happiness to the princess, and the queen could not ignore it. Liam smiled, not knowing the full meaning of her words but sensing their power. He had taken the first real step into the queen's heart and into a world that seemed impossible to reach. And for the first time he knew that even a small human boy could change the course of a palace, and maybe even the galaxy. The next day the palace was unusually quiet. Whispers of yesterday's laughter had spread through the halls, and the aides and servants watched carefully, their eyes filled with curiosity and worry. No one had ever seen Princess Elara laugh like that before, and no one had ever seen her so alive. But the queen remained in her throne room, silent, thinking deeply. Liam entered the room with a smile, carrying a small glowing sphere that reflected light like a tiny sun. Elara's eyes lit up immediately. "You brought something new," she said, her voice soft but excited. Liam knelt beside her and activated the sphere. It floated, spun, and changed colors in unpredictable ways. Elara laughed again, her joy spilling freely. Liam joined in, clapping and making the sphere spin even faster. The sound of her laughter filled the room and echoed through the palace, as if the walls themselves were celebrating. Outside the room, the queen watched carefully. Her advisors stood nearby, whispering nervously. "Your Majesty," one said, "this human boy has crossed every rule. He is influencing the princess, he could disrupt everything we have built." The queen's eyes remained fixed on her daughter. "He is not disrupting," she said softly. "He is helping her live. And for that I cannot ignore him." The advisors looked at each other in shock. Never before had the queen openly supported an outsider, especially a human. Their traditions were strict. Outsiders were not allowed this close to the royal family. But the queen had seen something that no rule could contain: her daughter's laughter, her joy, and the light in her eyes. Liam continued to play with Elara, showing her new tricks, telling funny stories and making silly gestures. Every time she laughed, her chair floated a little higher, her body relaxed, and her eyes sparkled with happiness. Liam noticed the change in her personality. She was no longer shy or withdrawn. She reached for the toys, guided them herself, and even made small jokes of her own. Finally, the queen stepped down from her throne. The advisors stiffened. No one had ever seen her move so openly among outsiders. She approached Liam and Elara, her face calm but her eyes shining. "I have watched carefully," she said, "and I have seen something extraordinary. My daughter has found happiness, and it is because of this human boy." A hush fell over the room. Liam looked at the queen, unsure what she would do next. The aides exchanged worried glances, fearing that the queen might send him away as tradition demanded. But the queen surprised them all. She knelt slightly and looked at Liam directly. "You will remain here," she said. "Not as a guest, not as an entertainer, but as someone who can help my daughter grow. You will teach her, play with her, and be her friend." The room went silent. The advisors could hardly believe it. The queen had made a decision that defied centuries of custom. A human, someone from another world, would stay in the palace permanently. And not just anywhere, he would be allowed near the princess, influencing her daily life. Liam's eyes widened. I will do my best, Your Majesty," he said, bowing slightly. He felt a mix of fear and excitement. This was more than he had hoped for. This was a chance to make a real difference. The queen turned her gaze to Elara. The princess floated closer to Liam and smiled, a real, bright smile. "Thank you," she whispered. Her small voice carried more power than any royal decree. The queen's expression softened. She realized that sometimes rules were not enough. Sometimes joy, laughter, and friendship could achieve what strict laws never could. And in this moment she understood that humans, though small and fragile compared to her kind, had something valuable: the ability to touch hearts in ways that tradition never could. The advisors whispered among themselves, still unsure if this was wise. But the queen did not waver. "Let him stay," she said firmly. "My daughter needs him. And perhaps the galaxy needs humans in ways we do not yet understand." From that day on, Liam's life changed completely. He spent every day with Princess Elara, teaching her about Earth, telling stories, and sharing laughter. He learned alien games and languages too, and together they created a bond stronger than anyone had imagined. Elara grew more confident and joyful with each passing day. The palace, once cold and strict, seemed warmer, brighter, and alive with laughter. Even the queen felt lighter, her heart touched by the simple human joy that Liam brought. That night, the queen returned to her private chamber, thinking about the day's events. She had broken tradition, defied her advisors, and trusted a human boy. But she had also done something greater. She had chosen her daughter's happiness over rigid rules. And in her heart, she knew that this choice would echo far beyond the palace walls, perhaps even changing the way her people saw humans forever. For Liam and Elara, life had only just begun. Laughter had bridged worlds and friendship had crossed galaxies. And somewhere deep in the queen's heart, a quiet hope was growing. A hope that humans could bring change, joy, and warmth to places even the greatest alien minds could not reach. The next morning, the palace seemed alive with possibility. Liam woke early as always, carrying a small bag full of toys and stories. He had learned that Princess Elara loved surprises, and he wanted this day to be special. Today he hoped she would laugh in a way that would be remembered forever. Not just a small giggle but a full, joyful sound that could fill the palace and reach the queen's heart completely. Elara was already awake, floating gently above her room. Her eyes sparkled as she saw Liam enter. "Good morning," she said softly, a small smile already on her lips. Liam grinned. "Good morning, Elara. Are you ready for today's adventure?" He opened his bag and pulled out a set of glowing orbs that hovered in mid-air. Each orb was a different color, spinning slowly, casting rainbow lights around the room. He placed them carefully, arranging them in a circle around Elara. Then he pressed a small button, and the orbs began to dance in patterns, moving closer and further, spinning and twirling in perfect harmony. Elara's eyes widened. "Wow," she whispered, reaching out her hands to touch the lights. Liam moved among the orbs, spinning and leaping in exaggerated ways, making silly faces and funny noises. The princess laughed, a full ringing laugh that echoed clearly through the room. It was louder than any sound she had made before, pure and joyful. The queen, observing from her crystal balcony, felt a rush of emotion. She had never heard her daughter laugh like this. The sound was not just happiness, it was freedom, hope, and life itself. Her eyes shone as she realized that this human boy had achieved something no one else could. Liam had broken the walls around her daughter's heart and filled them with light. Elara clapped her hands, floating higher in excitement. "Do it again," she cried. Liam smiled and made the orbs spin faster, weaving patterns in the air that looked like stars racing across the sky. He twirled, hopped, and made funny sounds, pretending to chase invisible creatures. The princess laughed even louder, nearly doubling over in her chair, and for the first time, the queen could see tears of joy in her eyes. The palace aides and servants watched in astonishment. They had been trained to follow rules and protect traditions, but they had never seen anything like this. A human, a boy from another world, had not only made the princess laugh, he had touched her soul. Whispers filled the halls. "It is impossible, but it is real." Liam knelt beside Elara, his chest full of happiness. "See, Elara," he said softly. "You can laugh. You can feel joy. And you can do it as loudly as you want." Elara reached out and touched his hand. "Thank you, Liam," she said, her voice filled with warmth. I haven't felt this happy in so long." The queen descended from her balcony, moving gracefully toward them. She stood silently for a moment, watching her daughter laugh freely, the sound echoing through the palace. Her advisors held their breath. The queen had not spoken a word, but everyone knew she was about to make a decision that would change everything. Finally, the queen spoke, her voice calm but strong. "This human boy has done what no one else could. He has given my daughter joy, laughter, and hope. For that, he will remain here." Gasps filled the room. The queen continued, "Not as a guest, not as a visitor, but as a companion, a teacher, and a friend. My daughter deserves happiness, and no tradition will take that away." The aides whispered among themselves, shocked by the queen's decision. But the queen's eyes never left her daughter and Liam. She knew that rules could wait, but the heart's joy could not. Elara's laughter grew even louder, filling every corner of the palace. Liam joined in, spinning the orbs in new patterns, telling stories and making funny faces. The queen smiled softly, seeing her daughter at last free from the chains of caution and fear. She realized that sometimes, the smallest beings, humans fragile and simple, could achieve what the greatest minds and strongest powers could not. Hours passed, but the laughter never stopped. Liam and Elara created new games, told new stories, and explored every glowing corner of the room. The palace, usually so still and rigid, felt alive. Even the plants and lights seemed to shimmer more brightly, responding to the joy that had entered the room. That night, the queen returned to her private chamber, thinking deeply. She had broken centuries of tradition, defied her advisors, and welcomed a human boy into her palace. But she also knew she had done the right thing. She had chosen her daughter's happiness over strict rules, and in doing so, she had opened a door that could change the way humans and aliens saw each other forever. Liam stayed by Elara's side as she finally rested, her eyes twinkling and her heart light. The boy from Earth had not only brought laughter to a princess but had also taught a queen a powerful lesson, that joy, friendship, and courage could bridge worlds and change destinies. And in the quiet palace, under the glowing orbs and floating stars, a new beginning had begun. One where humans and aliens might understand each other, one laugh at a time.